Welcome everyone to the monthly technical steering committee of the EVerest Open Source Project. We again have some interesting highlights. The mono repo consolidation really completed. We have now the maintenance of the live stable edition really in work. So people starting to backport things. We have a super active car working group. We see that for quite a while. Interesting times that there's so much things going on that edge of the ecosystem. We have a nice donation of test infrastructure for Basel, and CPO forum from the EVerest community got a new landing page with all the archive and things we did over the course of the last months. Also, the new notes, then you can check that out. As always, you can jump through the recording by clicking in the description on the right chapter. But before we start, let's quickly point out the antitrust policy. There might be competition here in the room, so please behave, read this through. And yeah, then let's get started with the development updates. Pete, I will hand it over to you. With core updates.
Yeah, that's the long list of core updates in the module part, but also partly in the framework. I won't go through all of them, but highlighted a couple that I wanted to mention. Quello worked a lot on making the integration tests compatible with Basel and Rust. We now have support for extended testing utilities in Rust. I think Quello also planned to document this and potentially also make a tutorial. At least I saw this in one of the PRs that was related to it. And they are now also able to run, for example, the smoke tests with Basel inside the CI. The other thing I wanted to mention was that we finally had a final pull request for adapting the EVerest Core name to just EVerest. As you know, we consolidated the EVerest repositories and merged almost all of the libraries into back then EVerest Core, and that gave us the opportunity to finally also rename that repository. There was a larger follow-up pull request that picked up all the references to EVerest Core and, where possible, renamed that also to EVerest. In the framework, we exchanged the existing MQTTC library with what we already had in the EVerest lib MQTT part, which is based on Mosquito. We added another API for the EVSE security integration. So in case you have your own security implementation and you don't want to use the existing EVSE security module, it's possible using that API. So that gives you more flexibility when you integrate EVerest. And the last two I also wanted to mention in ISO 15118, the charge parameter discovery request was using for DC the power supply capabilities, which is actually correct. But since those can change at runtime and you actually want to provide the nominal capabilities of your power supply in that message, we added or extended the existing power supply interface with also nominal capabilities. So now you have both that you can include, and the nominal ones are the ones that are not supposed to be changing at runtime. They are optional so that it's backwards compatible with existing implementation of that interface. And another thing we changed in the framework was how exceptions were handled and propagated. When we introduced the thread pool, that behavior changed a little bit so that module processes wouldn't or could end up not terminating in case of critical exceptions. And we changed that back. So if something critical happens, this exception propagates up to the right place. And that's also something that we, I think, already have backported to the stable release. And that's it for this slide.
Let's continue on OCPP and the Cloud Communication Working Group.
Yeah, there are a couple of things from different angles. We have worked a bit on California pricing and the session cost integration. We extended the session cost consumer API to provide more information that we receive via OCPP and make this more transparent. Compleo has worked on the use cases Q11 and Q12 for the bidirectional implementation in OCPP. And those PRs, I think it was a single PR that has been merged. I think I mentioned this change about the default price in the session cost API. That's related. There was an issue with smart charging profiles with non-finite float values because they could poison the database, and when those were reinitialized, this could lead to issues. So that's also a fix that we have backported to the stable branch. And also for I think the charging profiles for Connect to Zero, there was an issue that don't have it on the top of my head, but it's also backported. And we added documentation for the upcoming mapping between OSPP 1.6 configuration parameters and the device model. There is currently work going on to migrate from a 1.6 configuration to the device model so that you can use the device model for both 1.6 and 2.x so that you can seamlessly switch between protocol versions having the same storage backend. Yeah, there's a lot going on as well that's still in progress. We're working from different angles on the bidirectional functional block. Also, the work on DER control has started. I mentioned combining the OSPP protocol versions. So the final goal is that we actually only have one OSPP module left where you can configure what OSPP versions you prefer, or just communicate to the CSMS that you prefer or that you support all versions, and then the CSMS finally chooses which one you want to use. Yeah, and there are also people that work on an OSPP debug interface to retrieve the OSPP messages to use that for example, a second debug channel, second WebSocket connection.
1 second, please. Prince, can you please mute yourself? We can hear you typing. Thank you. So, then let's go to the next slide. Car Communication Working Group.
Yeah. Also, a couple of fixes and features. The first was that the default parameter set is created in case of a failed response code. Then I think ChargeByte added support for configurable supported app protocol so that this is not static, but can also change at runtime. I think that's used for the fake DC mode that they are working on. We replaced the STD vector with a fixed vector util in libISO 15.11.8. There was one fix for a buffer overflow in handle certificate installation, and some changes to libISO 15.11.8 that are related to supporting the library on microcontrollers. And yeah, as Marco already mentioned, there's lots of activity in the car communication working group at the moment. Some people are working on the -2 implementation in libISO, so basically a replacement for what we already have in EVerest. Some people work on porting it to the microcontroller, and then we have work going on for -20, of course. So yeah, that's very positive news.
Thanks a lot. At the vulnerability management team, I think Kai is not here.
Yeah, I can take this over. So we already, like with the release, we already fixed a few vulnerabilities that had been reported. There are a few still pending. I think some of them have already been backported to the stable release branch, and yeah, the ones that are still open, I think we are quite far actually. Fixing those will also be backported to the stable branch. So I think we found a good rhythm and a good mode for this, handling those.
Maybe as a side note, as I hasn't made it on the slide, we are on the premier access waiting list from the new Anthropic Mythos model. If you read the news, it's very famous now for finding zero-day attacks in software. And they gave no public access so far, but just focusing on the open source communities that they get a head start on fixing things. I guess Linux kernel comes first, and I hope we come afterwards. So we are on the early access list. And I think that's nice, quite some beauty of being in such a big organization like the Linux Foundation, that you're getting such access to make open source really safe. So community proposals. So we have, no, there's too many slides here. Oh, that's a new one.
Maybe we misarranged, but I can start with this, Marco. Yeah. So my suggestion would be to, or maybe starting different, the energy management working group. There's actually quite some things going on right now around energy management, but the activity in the working group, like people attending the calls, is very low. I think because it's just fine that we work on stuff from the different angles and people just don't have the need to synchronize on certain things. So my suggestion would be to change the cadence to a 4-week rhythm. So we keep the meeting, and once it is needed again, or we want to change the frequency of this meeting, we can do it. But we keep all the infrastructure, the Zulip channel. But yeah, the last weeks it was very calm. So yeah, I just wanted to mention it here and maybe briefly discuss it. But I think we can just go to that 4-week rhythm for this.
Yeah. I think there is also from my side, I see a lot of happening behind the scene, what will end up in the energy domain. So I think it's a hot topic.
Yeah, for sure.
You're right. It's just no sync needed right now. Yeah. Okay, let's discuss it at the end. Mission statement.
Yeah, that was also a suggestion that we already discussed with Moritz in the triage call. What we mean by that. It's just a slide. So Marco, what I mean by this is to have some kind of mission statement. Moritz called it how we stand when it comes to, or what's the EVerest point when it comes to real world compliance and standard compliance, because it faces us quite sometimes in pull requests arguing with people about how to implement certain things. I think we have like people that work a lot on EVerest. They know the approach, which is be real world compliant as the priority, and then of course try to be standard compliant, but at least make it configurable if such a requirement exists. But it would be nice to have this written down somewhere so that we can also reference it and share this approach. So that's basically a suggestion that we can also maybe briefly discuss in the end.
Thanks. Then just a quick recap from last time. It got accepted that we now have a new leadership structure. So we have, besides the chair of the technical steering committee, which is still me, we have broke out the chief architect role. You could call it like a CTO of EVerest, which Pete became. And just as a heads up, there might be a community manager coming who acts as like a back office to a certain extent for multiple open source projects. LF Energy applied for funding or planned some funding, planned some hiring there. Let's see how this goes. This kind of split happened in a lot of open source projects as they mature as they grow, and we just discussed and accepted that last time. So what else? I mentioned initially the EVerest CPO forum. So our group where the chargement operators, the basically end users of those chargers in a certain way, can align, can organize, can define KPIs, can give feedback and input to the community. We discussed there that actually it's anyway public. It's in a way anyway public recordings. So let's make it public, putting it on YouTube, putting the slides on a public archive, make a proper landing page. All of that happened. Also making a mailing list that people have a starting place for something. That's now all online. So if you know any CPOs and you think they should have more interest in EVerest, please point them here. The EVerest next CPO forum will be, I think, on Tuesday next week. Also preparing for that in the background. And yeah, upcoming events. We have the working groups. We just discussed we want to make the energy management now monthly. Everything else stays the same. We discussed a while ago that we're planning a kind of EVerest community meeting, a hackathon around EVerest, maybe even bigger around the entire LF Energy EV charging, LF Energy Edge special interest group. So which is like us at Citrino as and others, would invite everyone there. And that is now scheduled for mid-September. We first had to discuss a bit with Open Charge Alliance if they want to join this or not, if they were, and then they decide like they have been way too often in Germany, so they want to go somewhere else to give also other countries a chance. So we keep the dates. We have already the first speakers for the conference part of this on the left-hand side. If here's anyone interested in talking about EVerest from a vendor perspective or from an operator perspective, or ideally from a joint perspective, like doing a co-talk, please reach out. We have already also first handful of VIP speakers, got a couple of them reserved. We will now reach out to more of you in the next days and then make it public. The website is now also already live. I think even the sign-up mechanism is live, but the schedule isn't. So if you're interested in an exchange or in a hackathon, please ping us. Quick heads up what happens in the next weeks. I mentioned CPO forum on Tuesday, day after. There's an EVerest-based virtual charger park, CPMS testing tool, webinar from Pionix. We got quite some interest in that. Then Nordic EV Summit is something where I know EVerest will be present. There is the Eclipse Software-Defined Vehicle Working Group meeting got rescheduled. That was actually planned for 3 weeks ago, but then there was an Easter vacation break and no one showed up. So now it's rescheduled for 4 weeks later. Giant Festival will happen, Power to Drive will happen. Next to the Power to Drive, we will have again an EVerest community meetup. I think last time we had 50 people or so. Would love if we can break that record this time. ICNC will be in Berlin. Also, there will be side events regarding EVerest. We'll have the conference I just mentioned, the hackathon here, LF Energy Summit will be in Berlin. There will be more Chariot and OCA festivals the week after. So I think September is super crowded for e-mobility in Germany and in Ireland. And yeah, let's see how that evolves. If we're missing anything on the slide, or if any company is going to another event which is EVerest related or showing something EVerest related, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to put you on the list here. And having said that, next TSC meeting is in 5 weeks from now, 28th of May, again, 5 p.m. All the working group meetings will be in between. So please reach out, please join us, and let's have a happy coding. And we'll